Okay. Hello everyone. Welcome back to another live book reading session. So yeah, now we are on the last chapter of the Little Art of Not Giving Fuck, right? And this book is incredibly good. It gives me a lot of lessons. Is how we should not give fuck about everything in our life. We should give a fuck about a very specific, very particular things, not just everything. And we should not give priority to everything. Then nothing is at priority, right? So this is one of the great lessons I learned from this book. Seek truth for yourself, and the chapter 9 is, and then you die. And then you die, right? So yeah. Seek the truth for yourself, and I will meet you there. This was this was the last thing Josh ever said to me. He said it ironically, attempting to sound deep while simultaneously making fun of people who attempt to sound deep. He was drunk and high, and he was a good friend. The most transformational moment of my life occurred when I was 19 years old. 19 years old. My friend Josh had taken me to a party on a lake just north of Dallas, Texas. There were condos and a hill, and below the hill was a pool, and below the pool was a cliff overlooking the lake. It was a small cliff, maybe 30 feet high, certainly high enough to give you a second thought about jumping, but low enough that with the right combination of alcohol about jumping, but low enough that it will no, but low enough that it with the right combination of alcohol and peer pressure, the second thought could easily vanish. Shortly after arriving at the party, Josh and I sat in the pool together, drinking beers and talking as young, angsty males do. We talked about drinking and bands and girls and all of the cool stuff Josh had done that summer since dropping out of music school. We talked about playing in band together and moving to New York City, an impossible dream at the time. We were just kids. Is it okay to jump off that? I asked for a while, nodding toward the cliff over the lake. Yeah, Josh said people do it all the time here. Are you going to do it? He shrugged, maybe, well, we'll see. Later in the evening, Josh and I got separated. I had become distracted by a pretty Asian girl who liked video games, which to me, as a teenage nerd, was akin to winning the lottery. She influenced me, but she was friendly and happy to let me talk. So I talked. After a few beers, I gathered enough courage to ask her to go up to the house with me to get some food. Oh, she said sure. As we walked up the hill, we bumped into Josh coming down. I asked him if he wanted food, but he declined. I asked him where I could find them later on. He smiled and said, "Seek the truth for yourself, and I will meet you there." I nodded and made a serious face. "Okay, I'll see you there." I replied as if everyone knew exactly where the truth was and how to get into that. Josh laughed and walked down the hill toward the cliff. I laughed and continued up the hill toward the house. I don't remember how long I was inside. I just remember that when the girl and I came out again, everyone was gone and there were silence. The pool was empty, people were running down the hill towards the shoreline below the cliff. There were others already down by the water. I could make out a couple guys swimming around. It was dark and hard to see. The music turned on, but nobody listened. Still, thought putting two together, I hurried down the shoreline, calling on my sandwich. Here's what everyone was looking at. Halfway down, the pretty Asian girl said to me, I think something terrible has happened. When I got to the bottom of the hill, I asked someone where Josh was. No one looked at me and acknowledged me. Everyone stared at the water. I asked again, and the girl started crying uncontrollably. That's when I put two and two together. I took scuba divers. I took scuba diver 3 hours to find. It took scuba divers 3 hours to find Josh's body at the bottom of the lake. The autopsy would later say that his legs had cramped due to dehydration from alcohol and as well as to impact of the jump from the cliff. It was dark out when he went in. The water layered on the night, black on black. No one could see where his screams for help were coming from. Just the splashes, just the sounds. His parents later told me that he was a terrible swimmer. I had no idea. It took me 12 hours to let myself cry. I was in my car driving back home to Austin the next morning. my dad and told him that I was still near the last and that I was going to miss work. I had been working for him that summer. Why? What happened? Is everything all right? And that's when it all came out. The waterworks, the wails and the screams and the snort. I put the car over to the side of the road and clutched the phone and cried the way a little boy cries to his father. I went into deep depression that summer. I thought I had been depressed before, but this was a whole new level of meaninglessness. Sadness so deep that it physically hurt. People would come by and try to cheer me up, and I would sit there and hear them say all the right things to and do all right things. And I would tell them thank you and how nice it was of them to come over. And I would fake a smile and lie and say it was getting better. But underneath, I just felt nothing. I dreamed about Josh for a few moments about after that dreams where he and I would have full blown conversation about life and death as well as about random pointless things. Up until that point in my life, I had been a pretty typical middle class stoner kid, lazy, irresponsible, socially anxious, and deeply insecure. Josh, in many ways, had been a person I looked up to. He was older, more confident, more experienced, more accepting of, and open to the world around him. In one of my last dreams of Josh, I was sitting in a jacuzzi with him. Yeah, I know, weird. And I said something like, "I'm really sorry you died." He laughed. I don't remember exactly what his words were, but he said something like, "Why do you care that I am dead when you're still so desperate to live?" I woke up crying. I woke up crying. It was sitting on my mom's couch that summer. It was sitting on my mom's couch that summer, staring into a so-called abyss, seeing the endless and incomprehensible nothingness where Josh's friendship used to be when I came to startling realization that if there really is no reason to it, anything, there is also no reason to do anything, and that is in the face of inevitability of that there is no reason to ever get into one's fear of embarrassment or shame, since it's all just a bunch of nothing anyway. But and that by spending the majority of my short life avoiding what was painful and uncomfortable, I had essentially been avoiding being alive at all. And that summer, I gave up the cigarettes and the video games. I gave up my silly rockstar fantasies and dropped out of music school. I signed up for college courses. I started going to the gym. I lost a bunch of weight. I made new friends. I got my first girlfriend. And for the first time in my life, I actually studied for classes, gaining me the startling realization that I could make good grades if only I gave a shit. The next summer, I challenged myself to read 50 non-fiction books in 50 days. And then did it the following year. I transferred to an excellent university on the other side of the country where I excelled for the first time both academically and socially. Josh, that marks the clearest before after point I can identify in my life. Pre trilogy, I was inhibited, unambitious, forever obsessed, and confined by what I imagined the world might be thinking of me. Post trilogy, I moved into a new person, responsible, curious, hardworking. I still had my insecurities and my baggage as we always do, but now I give a fuck about something more important than my insecurities and my baggage, and that made all the difference. Only it was someone else that gave me permission to finally live. And perhaps the worst moment of my life was also the most transformational. Death scares us, and because it scares us, we avoid thinking about it, talking about it, sometimes even acknowledging it, even when it's happening to someone close to us. Yet, in a bizarre backward way, death is the light by which the shadow of all life's meaning is measured. Without that, everything would feel inconsequential. All experience, arbitrary, all matrices and values suddenly zero. Something beyond ourselves. Ernest Becker. Ernest Becker was an academic outcast. In 1960, he got his PhD in anthropology. His doctoral research compared the unlikely and the unconventional practices of Zen Buddhism and psychoanalysis. At the time, Zen was seen as something of hippies and drug addicts, and Freudian psychoanalysis was considered a quack form of psychology left over from the Stone Age. In his first job as an assistant professor, Becker quickly fell into a crowd that denounced the practice of psychiatry as a form of fascism. They saw the practice as an unscientific form of oppression against the weak and the helpless. The problem was that Becker's boss was a psychiatrist, so it was kind of like walking into your first job and probably compare your boss to Hitler. As you can imagine, he was fired. So Becker took his radical ideas somewhere that they might be accepted. Berkeley, California, but this didn't last long. because it wasn't just his anti-establishment tendencies that got Becker in trouble. It was his own teaching method as well. He would use Shakespeare to teach psychology textbooks to teach anthropology, and anthropological data to teach sociology. He had dress up as King Lear and mock sword fights in class and go on long political rants that had little to do with the lesson plan. As a student ignored him, the other faculty loathed him. Less than a year later, he was fired again. Becker then landed at San San Francisco State University, where he actually kept his job for more than a year. But when student protests erupted over the Vietnam War, the university called in the National Guard and things got violent. When Baker sided with the students and publicly condemned the actions of the dean, again his boss being Hitler's shoe and everything, he was once again promptly fired. Becker changed jobs 4 times in 6 years, and before he could get fired from the fifth, he got colon cancer. The prognosis was grim. He spent the next few years bedridden and had little hope of surviving. So Baker decided to write a book. This book would be about that. Becker died in 1974. His book, The Denial of Death, would win the Pulitzer Prize and became one of the most influential intellectual works of the 20th century, shaking up the fields of psychology and anthropology while making profound philosophical claims that are still influential today. The denial of death essentially makes 2 points. Humans are unique in that we are the only animal that can conceptualize and think about ourselves abstractly. Dogs don't sit around and worry about their career. Cats don't think about their past mistakes or wonder what would have happened if they had done something differently. Monkeys don't argue over future responsibilities, just as fish don't sit around and wondering if other fish would like them more if they had longer fins. As humans, we are blessed with the ability to imagine ourselves in hypothetical situations, to contemplate both the past and the future, to imagine other realities or situations where things might be different, and that's because of its unique mental ability. Baker says that we all, at this point, become aware of the inevitability of our own death. Because we are able to conceptualize alternate versions of reality, we are also the only animal capable of imagining a reality without ourselves in it. This realization causes the Baker cause that there a deep existential anxiety that underlies everything we think to do. Oh, that's crazy. Baker's second point starts with the premise that we essentially have two selves. The first self is the physical self and the one that eats, sleeps, knows, and moves. The second one is our conceptual self, our identity, or how we see ourselves. Baker's argument in this: we are all aware on some level that our physical self will eventually die. That is inevitable. That's inevitability on some unconscious level scare the shit out of us. Therefore, in order to compensate for our fear of the inevitable loss of our physical self, we try to construct a conceptual self that will live forever. And this is why people try to so hard to put their names on buildings and statues, on spines of books. That's why we feel compelled to spend so much time giving ourselves to others, especially with children, in the hope that our influence, our conceptual self, will last way beyond our physical self, and that we will be remembered and rewarded and idealized long after our physical self ceases to exist. Becker calls such efforts our immortality projects that allow our conceptual self to live on way past the point of our physical death. All of human civilization, he says, is basically a result of immortality projects. The cities and the governments and structures and authorities in place today were all immortality projects of men and women who came before us. They are the remnants of conceptual selves that ceased to die. Names like Jesus, Muhammad, Napoleon, and Shakespeare are just as powerful today as when those men lived, if not more so. Then that's the whole point. Whether it to be through mastering an art form, conquering a new land, gaining great riches, or simply having a large and loving family that will live on for generations. All the meaning in our life is shaped. All the meaning in our life is shaped by this inner desire to live, to never truly die. Religion, politics, sports, arts, and technological innovations are the result of people's immortality project. Baker argues that wars and revolutions and mass murders occur when one group of people's immortality projects rub up against another group's. Centuries of oppression and the bloodshed of millions have been justified as a defense of one group's immortality projects against the others. But when our immortality projects fail, when the meaning is lost, when the prospect of our conceptual self outliving our physical self no longer seems possible or likely, that terror, that horrible depression, anxiety keeps back to our mind to nothing cause this, as can shame and social ridicule, as can as wicked counts out mental illness. If you haven't figured it out yet, your immortality projects our immortality project are our values. They are the barometers of meaning and what's in our life. And when our values fail, so do we, psychologically speaking. And what Baker is saying in essence is that we are all driven by fear to give way to any fucks about something. Because giving a fuck about something is the only thing that restricts us from reality and inevitably other or on that. And to truly not give a single fuck is to achieve a quasi spiritual state of embarrassing the impermanence of one's own existence. But to truly or to your fucking to achieve a quasi-spiritual state of embracing the impermanence of one's own existence. In that state, one is far less likely to get caught up in various forms of entitlement. Bigger later came up to a startling realization on his deathbed. Deathbed that people's immortality projects were actually the problems, not the solution. That's rather than attempting to implement. Often the lethal force there conceptual self across the world. People should question their conceptual self and become more comfortable with the reality of their own death. Beckett called this the bitter antidote and struggled with reconciling it. Himself as he stared down his own demise. While the death is bad, it is inevitable. Therefore, we should not avoid this realization but rather come to terms with it as best we can. Because once we become comfortable with the fact of our own that the root terror, the underlying anxiety motivating all of life's frivolous ambitions, we can then choose our values more freely, unrestricted and by the illogical quest of immortality and freed from dangerous dogmatic views. The sunny side of that. I stepped from rock to rock, climbing steadily, leg muscles stretching and aching. In that trance-like state that comes from slow, repetitive physical exertion, I am nearing the top. The sky gets wide and deep. I'm alone now. My friends are far below me, taking pictures of the ocean. Finally, I climb over a small boulder and view opens up. I can see from here to the infinite horizon. It feels as though I am stuck. I am staring at the edge of the earth where water meets the sky, blue and blue. The wind screams across my skin. I look up. It's bright, it's beautiful. I am at South Africa's Cape Town of Good Hope, once thought to be the southern tip of Africa and the southernmost point in the world. It's tumultuous. What is this tumultuous? Chaotic place, a place full of storms, treacherous waters, a place that's seen centuries of trade and commerce and human endeavor. A place, ironically, of lost hopes. Cape Town. There is a saying in Portuguese, "El de Barro, uh, El de Barro, El de Barro, o Coba de Bo Esperanza." It means he is rounding the Cape of football. Ironically, it means that the person's life is in its final phase, that he is incapable of accomplishing anything more. I step across the raft toward the blue, allowing its vastness to engulf my field of vision. I am sweating yet cold, excited yet nervous. As they said, the wind is sleeping my ears. I hear nothing but I see the edge, where the rock meets oblivion. I stop and stand for a moment. Several yards away, I can see the ocean below, lapping, lapping and frothing against cliffs stretching out from miles to either side. The tides are furious against the inflated walls. Straight ahead is a sheer drop at least 50 yards to the water below. To my right, tourists are dotted across the landscape below, snapping photos and aggregating themselves into ant-like formation. To my left is Asia. In front of me is the sky, and behind is me everything I have ever hoped for and brought with me. What if this is it? What if this is all there is? I looked around, I'm alone. I take my first step toward the edge of the human body seems to completely the human body seems to come good with a natural radar for death-inducing situations. Yeah, death inducing. For example, the moment you get within about 10 feet of a cliff edge, minus guard rail, a certain tension takes into your body. Your back stiffens, your skin ripples, your eyes become hyper focused on every details of your environment. Your feet feels as though they are made of rock. It's as if they were very invisible magnet gently pulling your body back to the safety. But I fight the magnet, I trip my feet, made of rock closer to the edge. At 5 feet away, your mind joins the party. You can now see not only the edge of the cliff but down the hill face itself. She uses all sorts of unwanted visualizations of tripping and falling and tumbling to a splashy depth. It's really fucking far, your mind reminds you. Like really fucking far. Dude, what are you doing? Stop moving, stop moving. I tell, I tell my mind to shut up and keep inching forward. At 3 feet, your body goes into full scale red alert. You are now within an errant shoeless of your life ending. It feels as though a hefty gust of wind could send you sailing off into that loose bisected eternity. Your legs shake, as do your heads, as do your voice in case you read you're about to limit to your death. The 3 foot distance is most people above absolute limit. Just close to lean forward and catch a glimpse of bottom, but still far enough to feel as though you are not at any real risk of killing yourself. Standing that close to the edge of a cliff, even one as feel unmerciful as the cape of good flow, induces a heady sense of fatigue and threatens to re-navigate any recent meal. In this, re-navigate any recent meal. Well, yeah. Is this it? Is this all there is? Do I already know everything I will ever know? I take another micro step, then another, now 2 feet now. 2 feet now. My forward leg vibrates as I put the weight on my body on it. I shuffle on against the magnet, against my will, against all my vital instincts for survival. 1 foot now, I am now looking straight down the cliff face. I feel a sudden urge to cry. My body instinctively crouches, protecting itself against something imagined and inexplicable. The wind comes and hails from the thoughts come in bright hooks. At 1 foot, you feel like you are floating. Anything but looking straight down feels as though you are part of the sky itself. You actually kind of expect to fall at this point. The crouch there for a moment, catching my breath, collecting my thoughts. I force myself to stare down at the water hitting the rock below me. Then I look again to my right, little arms milling about the sunniest below me, snapping photos, chasing newer buses off chance that somebody somehow sees me. This desire of attention is wholly irrational, but so is for all of this. It's impossible to make me out of you. Of course, and even if it weren't there, nothing I'd do existent people would say or do. All I hear is this panic. My body shudders, a fear becoming euphoric and blinding. I focus my mind and clear my thoughts in a kind of meditation. Nothing makes you present and mindful like being made inches away from your own death. I straighten up and look out again and mark and find myself smiling and remind myself that it's alright to die. The, the willing and even exuberant interfacing. The feeling and even exuberant interfacing with one's own mortality has ancient roots. The stoics of ancient Greece and Roman implored people to keep that in mind at all times in order to appreciate life more and remain humble in the face of its adversities. In various forms of Buddhism, the practice of meditations. The practice of meditation is often taught as a means of preparing oneself for death while still remaining alive. Dissolving one's ego into an expansive nothingness, achieving the enlightened state of nirvana is seen as a trial run of letting oneself cross to the other side. Even Mark Twain, the hairy goofball who came in and left on Halley's Comet, said, "The fear of death follows from the fear of death. A man who lives fully is prepared to die at any time." Back on the cliff, I bent down, slightly leaning back. I put my head on the ground behind me and gently lowered myself into the pipette, and then gradually slide one leg over the edge of the cliff. There's a small rock sitting out of the cliffside. I rest my foot on it. Then I slide my other foot on the edge. Same small rock. I sat there a moment, leaning back on my palms. When ruffling my hair, the anxiety is bearable now as long as I stay focused on the rise. When I sit up straight and look down the cliff again, fear shoots back up through my spine, electrifying my limbs and laser focusing my mind on the exact coordinates of every inch of my body. The fear is stifling at times, but each time it stifles me, I empty my thoughts, focus all my attention on the bottom of the cliff below me, force myself to gaze at my potential doom, and then to simply acknowledge its existence. It stifles. Able to breathe because you know you're. Uh, I was now sitting on the edge of the world, at the southernmost tip of Hope, the gateway to the east. The feeling was exhilarating. I can feel adrenaline, adrenaline pumping through my body. Being so still, so conscious, never felt so thrilling. I listened to the wind and watched the ocean and look out upon the ends of the earth. And then I laugh at the light, all that touches being good. Confronting the reality of our own mortality is important because it obliterates all the crappy fairy and superficial values in our life. While most people whittle their day chasing another buck or a little bit more fame or attention or a little bit more assurance than they are right or loud, that confronts all of us with a far more painful and important question. What is your legacy? That's crazy. How the world how will the world be different and better when you're gone? What mark will you have made? What influence will you have caused? They say that a butterfly flapping its wings in Africa can cause a hurricane in Florida. Well, that what hurricanes will you leave in your wake? As Baker pointed out, this is arguably the only true important question in our life. Yet we avoid thinking about it. One, because it's hard. Two, because it's scary. Three, because we have no fucking clue what we are doing. And when we avoid this question, we'll let trivial and hateful values hijack our brains and take control of our desire and ambition. Without acknowledging the ever-present gauge of death, the superficial will appear superficial. That is the only thing we can know with any certainty, and as such, it must be the compass by which we orient all of our other values and decisions. It is the correct way. It is the correct. It is the correct answer to all of the questions we should ask, but not the only way to be comfortable with it is to understand and see yourself as something bigger than yourself. To choose values and stretch beyond serving ourselves that are simple and immediate and controllable and tolerant of the chaotic world around you. This is the basic root of all happiness. Whether you are listening to Aristotle or the psychologist at Harvard or Jesus Christ or the Gordon Beatles, they all say that happiness comes from the same thing: caring about something greater than yourself, believing that you are a contributing component in some much larger entity, that your life is but a part of that. Side process of create unintelligible, unintelligible production. This feeling is what people go to church for. It's what they fight wars for. It's what they raise families and save benches and build bridges and invent cell phones for. This fleeting sense of being part of something greater and noble, more noble than themselves. And entitlement strips this very from us. The gravity of entitlement sucks all attention inwards toward ourselves, causing us to feel as though we are at the center of all the problems in the universe, that we are the ones suffering from all of injustices, that we are the one who deserves greatness over all others. As alluring as it is, entitlement isolates us. Our curiosity and excitement for the world turns upon itself and reflect our own biases and projections onto every person we meet and everywhere, every event we experience. This feels sexy and insisting and feel good for a while and sells a lot of tickets, but it's a spiritual poison. It's these dynamics that plague us now. We are so materially well off, yet so psychologically tormented, and so many low level and shallow ways people relinquish all responsibility, demanding that society cater to their feelings and sensibilities. People hold on to arbitrary certainties and try to enforce them on others, often violently in the name of some meritorious cases. Cause people high on a sense of false superiority fall into inaction and lethargy for fear of trying something worthwhile and failing at it. Okay, how much? Oh yeah, it's 33 minutes, right? The pampering of the modern mind, the pampering, the pampering of the modern mind has resulted in a population that feels deserving of something without earning that something. A population that feels, a population that feels they have a right to something without sacrificing for it. People declare themselves experts, entrepreneurs, inventors, innovators, mavericks, and coaches without any real life experience. And they do this not because they actually think they are greater than everybody else. They do it because they feel that they need to be great to be accepted in a world that broadcasts only the extraordinary. Our culture today confuses great attention and great success, assuming them to be the same thing, but they are not. You are great already, whether you realize it or not, whether anybody else realizes it or not, and it's not because you launched an iPhone app or finished school early or brought yourself a sweet ass board. These things do not define greatness. You are already great because in the face of endless confusion and certain death, you continue to choose what you give a fuck about and what not to. It's mere fact, the simple optioning for your own values in life. already makes you beautiful, already makes you successful, already makes you loved, even if you don't realize it. Even if you are sleeping in a gutter and starving, you too are going to die, and that's because you too are fortunate enough to have love, and you may have not feel less, but go straight on a cliff sometime, and maybe you will. Bukowski once wrote, "We are all going to die, all of us. What a circus! That alone should make us love each other, but isn't. We are all terrorized and threatened by life's trivialities. We are eaten up by nothing." Looking back on that night, out by that lake, when I watched when I watched my friend Josh's body getting fished out of the lake by paramedics, I remember stepping into the black Texas night and watching my ego slowly dissolve into Josh's death taught me much more than I initially realized. He helped me to seize the day, take responsibility for my choices, and pursue my dreams with less shame and innovation. But these were side effects of a deeper, more primary lessons. And the primary lesson was this: there is nothing to be afraid of. Ever and reminding myself for my own that repeatedly over the years, whether it is be through medication, meditation, through reading philosophy, or going through crazy shit like standing on a cliff in South Africa, is the only thing that has helped me hold this relation front and center in my mind. This acceptance of my death, this understanding of my own fragility has made everything easier. Untangling addictions, identifying and confronting my own entitlement, accepting responsibility for my own problems, suffering through my fears and uncertainties, accepting my failures and embracing resistance. It has all been made lighter by the thought of my own death. The more I peer into darkness, the brighter life gets, the quieter the world becomes, and the less conscious resistance I feel to. So, with anything, it's crazy, yeah. Okay, I sat there on the cake for a few minutes talk, taking in everything. Then I finally decided to get up. I put my hands behind me and scoot back down. Slowly I stand and check the ground around me, making sure there is no errant rope roots or towards me. When I recognize that I'm safe, I begin to walk to reality. 5 feet, 10 feet, my body is restoring itself with each step. My foot becomes lighter. I let my drawing me as I step back for over some rocks, back to the main path. I could to see a man staring at me, walk away. And after that, oh, I saw you sitting on the edge of water there. He says, his accent is Australian. The word there rolls out of his mouth awkwardly. Oh, I saw you sitting on the edge over there. He points toward, he points towards Antarctica. Yeah, the view is gorgeous, isn't it? I'm smiling. He's not. He has a serious look on his face. I brush my hands off my body is still buzzing from any incident. There's an awkward silence. The Aussie stands for a moment, perplexed, still looking at me, clearly thinking of what to say. After a moment, he carefully pieces the words together. Is everything okay? How are you feeling? He paused for a moment, still smiling, alive, very alive. His skepticism breaks and reveals a smile in his face. He gives a slight nod and head toward the trail. I stand around, talking in his waiting for my friends to arrive to speak. Oh, that's crazy.
Really cliche, but is this too tight?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, it'd probably be good if you were, trying to do that, twerking kind of stuff. But I think, personally, you're going to get the wrong kind of attention wearing something like this. I'm just saying.
Okay. Well,
Any
what's wrong?
issue? I'm reading up at least a year in chapters, so I'm kind of, no, I think.
Related.
But that. Oh, okay. I'm sure you smell like flowers and daisies, but that doesn't change the fact. I don't want to talk about that.
What? It's not like we're related.
But we kind of are. I mean, our parents are together, and I mean, anyways, I think that it. I mean, it fits, but it's I think. I think you're gonna grab the wrong attention from people. And that's not what you want. I tell you, there's a lot of creepers. You'll have to carry pepper spray if you wear that.
I just want to get laid. I'm not trying to like meet my soulmate. Is this gonna like get attention to get laid?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Can you see the panty line?
I
should not do panties.
No. My sister. What are you doing?
You said you could see panty lines. Okay.
Ew. God. Jesus. Why did I laid?
Sex?
What?
What?
Grr.
Stop being so uptight. It's not like we're related.
But
Step. It's not illegal. Me and find out that you actually like. Well, how
trying to get laid.
get laid?
Okay. Well, I mean, if you're trying.
Hi. It's not like we're related. I don't think.
I mean, ew. I mean, just.
You could have sex with me and find out that you actually like just boning your stepsister, and that's how you get whatever's happening down there to work.
But, I mean, it's too creepy. And
It's not creepy.
What if our parents?
We're not doing anything wrong. We're not related.
But I mean, we still live in the same house.
Okay, so we're like roommates. Roommates bone all the time.
No, they don't.
I bet. Let's make a.
It hasn't.
I haven't figured out what you like.
recording in my room?
On
My vibrator?
I said, should
Well,
you can always say baby.
oh, yes. Oh, just like that, baby. Ah.
Oh yeah. Open him up.
It's nothing. I just really need to talk. Well, it's just my boyfriend.
All right. So,